In the last episode, I flattened out this island and removed all of the trees from it too. And there's still a whole bunch of work to do on this island in terms of finishing off the edges and making it look nice, as well as building an absolutely ginormous nuclear power station. I also, in the last episode, built a steam generator in here, which is basically a whole bunch of steam engines sitting on top of a rather small but just about the right size lava farm. And as you can see, it's got lava in it, which means it is keeping up with our steam requirements. But why have I built a whole bunch of steam power when I'm going nuclear? Well, the reason for that is we actually need a Thorium Refinery process in order to refine thorium to make it work for nuclear power. Thorium ore can be found in the ground, and when you break it down, you get 3 thorium from it. And you can also duplicate your thorium by mixing it with clay and stone, which is exactly what we need to do next. And the reason we need to do that is so then we can crush all of the spare thorium we're getting into radioactive thorium, of which there's only a 10% chance of getting any, and then we can use that along with some iron in order to make nuclear fuel. And nuclear fuel is used inside of a nuclear reactor in order to create nuclear power. And then we're going to need a whole bunch of heat exchangers and things like that so that it doesn't blow up, but that's getting further down the line when we've actually built that thing, which is going to take absolutely ages. So let's concentrate on building a thorium refinery, and for that we're going to need another one of these buildings, probably squeezing somewhere outside of that building somewhere, and I'm guessing probably where my beacon is, just there. And I kind of like my beacon being here, so I'm not going to destroy it, but I am going to move it. And in order to move it, I'm going to need to first of all glue it all together, just like that, and then we can use a mechanical piston to just shove it out of the way. And I don't know where to shove it. We'll just shove it in that direction, I guess, so it's out of the way over there. Mechanical piston, lots of piston arms, and a hand crank. And off we go. Goodbye. Excellent. Good. The beacon has been relocated. We can get rid of all the glue that's holding it together now, and now I can build in this little area here, which does mean I'm actually going to have to build out this landscape a little bit in order to put down another one of those types of buildings just around about here. And there we go, we've got a decent sized foundation, which is a little bit bigger than that one, and that's exactly what we're going to need, because this is going to need to produce a whole bunch of stuff, and to be honest with you, I think this is probably still not going to be big enough. So in order to build this, we're going to be using the trowel, and the reason we're using that is it can randomize blocks. Whatever is on your hotbar, it will randomize. So what I've got is 4 lots of the cut limestone bricks, so we're going to get most of that. 2 lots of just normal limestone, so we're going to get a little bit of that. And finally, 1 stack of cut limestone, so we're going to get the smallest amount of that, and that will give us this sort of variation that we need on here. So let's start with the corners, which are going to be exactly the same as that over there. And then we need to work out how we're going to space these out. And I think we're going to do this in 3s, but it might not fit. Oh, it does. It fits perfectly. Oh, well, that makes life nice and easy. Then the front is going to be exactly the same as that one, so that can be absolutely solid all the way across. And at the back, it's going to be solid as well, which means that's going to be how it looks. And it's going to be slightly higher than that one too, I think, because it's a slightly bigger building. So now that we've settled on this framework, all I need to do now is get my trowel and just build up the walls. And this is nice and easy. We go up 3 blocks, just hold down the button, walk around until it can't place anymore, and then I go up another 3 blocks, which is very slow and tedious, but it gets the job done. Now, before I get carried away with the side of the building, just looking at this in terms of height, I think that feels about right compared to that one. So yeah, I'm just going to do exactly the same thing now down each side, but this time instead of going up 3 and doing that, and then jumping up another 3 and doing that, there's a much quicker way of doing that, and that's just to spam the mouse button and just fly up with my jetpack and hope that I don't miss any. Oh, and my friends have arrived to come and see the building progress. Hey guys, how you doing? You just stand there, don't bother shooting at me, just stand there and admire, that's absolutely fine. And if you could all just stay perfectly still and not move towards me, I'd really appreciate it. Wow, what a good, they're actually listening to me today, this is lovely. Right, anyway, I need some more of this limestoney stuff. And they're still just stood there. Oh, what clever chaps you are. You're not total morons at all. So now that all of the walls in and my best friends have moved there to shelter from the rain, it's time to put the roof on this thing. But before I put a roof on it, I actually want to put some lanterns on the inside so that I don't create a room for even more of my friends to spawn in. Friends? Well, yeah, they're not my friends. It's just jeez, it's a joke. And that should be plenty of lanterns around there to keep that nice and light. So now what we need to do is the same sort of thing we did over here for the roof. So what we've got is andesite flagstone slabs with bits of andesite in there and some stone flagstone slabs. Jeez, they're hard to say. And all they are on is the thingy copycat trapdoory things. No, stay. No, So what? How did you get inside? Oh, I left the door open. What are you doing in my machines? Well, you're staying in there now. Nope. Wow. There's just you staying in there, I guess. Have fun. And with this last row, that is all of the roof bits put in, apart from the little bit of detail on the top, which we're going to add in next. And for that, I just need industrial iron, some of these little radiator fans, and a little bit more industrial iron with some copycat beams and shafts. We can do that. I have one propeller. How do I make propellers? Oh, I need andesite. Okay, let's have 32 propellers. And now I've not got enough iron sheet. So there we go. We can make 32 radiator fans. Now we need some copycat shafts and some copycat beams. And here we go. Let's throw in a whole bunch of these things. And how did I do it before? 3 from each side in the corners. So we'll do the same sort of thing here as well. So some industrial iron there. A little bit of industrial iron there. A little bit more there, and a little bit more there. We'll throw some fans onto that one, why not? We'll throw some fans onto these two as well, why not? And I think we need some more in the middle as well for this one, because it's such a longer building. So let's come here, and another one there, and then they're equidistant from each other, and we'll do the same thing here, and the same thing there. Let's throw a whole bunch more fans onto these ones as well. And then right in the back corner here, we're going to put my industrial iron in my offhand. We'll have a couple of beams there. We'll have one there. We'll have a shaft there. A couple of bit shafts on there. And then a bunch of shafts coming up from this one here. And there we go. That's the roof done now as well. Next, we need the big old windows at each end. I do want more loading bays in this one as well, because I think it just adds something a little bit unique and different. So it's smashy time. Smash 4. And then just get rid of these pretty much all the way to the other end. And now this is where the copycat slabs come in, because we need copycat slabs doubling up on each pit here so that we can texture the top and the bottom separately. We have those at the bottom of the window there. Oh, I think I'm a block high. No, I just need to do that with this one as well. Just like this. With the window slots now in at both ends, we just need the glass in there, which is more slabs, I believe. Yeah, we use slabs to make them vertical. And I need a whole bunch of light blue stained... Oh, cyan glass is it? I think it's cyan glass. Okay. I've got the glass left. I've got a bit in here still. That's good. But I'm not sure it's going to be enough. So we need to get the vertical slabs in first. So we can just do that facing that way. And then I can just click on those to fill in the rest of the area. And then I should have had this in my offhand. So it actually placed it in while I did it. But it really doesn't matter, because it doesn't take a couple of seconds just to click on each one of those and colour it in. But on this side of the building, I'm going to do it right from the start. Okay, jeez, don't shout at me. It's fine. Didn't do it on purpose. I just forget my offhand exists, okay? It's all my years of playing Bedrock Edition. I didn't know. I did know, but I forget. Oh, is that all I need? Like 4 more? 3 more? Jeez. Have I got any glass? No. Glass in here? 1. Got any sand? No. Well, I guess I'm going home. I think I cooked a load of... Yay, I did. I cooked a load of glass last time I was here, so I've got loads of glass now. So now all I need to do is get some cyan dye, and I believe I can make that out of some of the things we've got in here. I've got a bunch of cornflowers there. Need green dye, though. Don't really have a great deal that gives me green dye. And get it from crushing a whole bunch of different things. Ferns and flowers and cactuses. Well, I've got a whole bunch of tulips and poppies. Let's hope some of these will give us some green dye. Let's chuck these into the crushing wheels there. And hopefully... Oh, wow. Okay, that was fast. That was really fast. So let's just stick our green dye with our blue dye, make some cyan dye. And let's just make as many glass panes as we can. Here we go. Stack and a half. And we only needed 3. Done. Windows in, that's good. So next on our list is the little bays at the front, which is nice and easy. Although this time I think we can go a bit bigger. So 2 in from the side, 4 up and 4 across. And again, we're just going to use some stacked andesite slabs and some of our favourite little copycat panels here, just to make a couple of garage-type door thingy-mabobbies. And now that they're in, we just need a little access door to this building, which we'll shove right there. And for that, we're going to use an andesite door, which I've got some of here because I think these look very industrial. We'll throw that on there. And there we go. We now have a full building ready to start getting on with all our production. And I think they kind of look pretty good. They're going to look a whole bunch better once we got roadways and concrete concrete and all of that sort of stuff around this thing, but for now I think they look fine. Oh, I forgot to do this bottom lip thing. Oh, jeez. In order to do the bottom lip thing, we're actually going to be using the slab stair frame from the Reframed mod, and all I need to do is just basically knock out the bottom of all these walls here, and then very carefully put these in upside down. And these don't place very well at all. They're very awkward to place. If I place one slightly over to the side, it's going to go the wrong way round. And then all I'm going to do is colour the bottom ones in with the stacked deep slate, and then just throw in a random assortment of the bricks and the limestone and the cut limestone in order to just finish those off and make them look right. And I think that just adds the final level of detail to these buildings that they really need. More tedious placing of these things so that I can get them perfectly perfect. Nailed it. Pick up all of the little straggly bits that I've left kicking around. And now the building is complete and ready for the interior. That didn't take too long. I may have made a slight oopsie. I have made this building small. These bits were supposed to be there, giving us a 2 wide gap on either side, which means my building is 2 blocks shorter and 2 blocks wider than it should be, but it doesn't matter because I was only making up the numbers anyway, so hopefully it'll be enough. It does still seem like there's plenty of room on the inside, so fingers crossed we'll get away with it. Now, what I need to do next is actually get power to come in from this building into that one. And I could make some sort of big sort of line on the outside that takes it across, and we might end up doing that in the future for decoration purposes. But for now, because I think that'll look a bit ugly, I'm just going to route the power underground and bring it up inside here somewhere so that we've got power. So let's come into here. We've got our power line just here. However, the majority of it comes to this point here to join together. So let's just take that down further. We'll have that going into... Oh, I think that this is going to be interesting. Huh. Didn't think about that. Oh, it should be all right. We've got enough room. We might have to go around a couple of bends to get there. But I think if we bring it across to the front wall over here, then that makes more sense. So we'll bring that there, throw a gearbox on at that point there, and then I just need to get round to the other side to bring the power across this wall here, and then we just need a hole in this wall all the way through to where our other building is. And that is just there. Bit of shaft there. Throw a vertical gearbox in there. We'll bring that all the way back this way that I've just dug out. And if I just move this all down 1 block, it's not going to get in the way of the floor upstairs. So let's just get rid of that. Bring that 1 more block down over to there, and then that there. And what we do need at the other end is a speed controller. Now, eventually I won't want the power coming in here because it's in the wrong place. I'd rather actually it came up maybe through the wall here and went through the wall that way, or even in the back corner here would be good. But because I've got absolutely no idea how we're going to be laying this building out yet, I should probably deal with that first. Okay, this might look like a mess, but this is actually my plan, and it's relatively simple. It all starts with cobblestone. The cobblestone we are going to smelt into stone. We're going to send that into a basin. We're going to have thorium already, which we're going to throw into a basin. The other half of the cobblestone is going to come down here, get crushed into gravel, get crushed again into sand. During that process, we'll get some clay, which we can send over to a press. We'll also get clay from washing this sand, which we can send into that press, which is going to create clay blocks, which we're going to send into this basin. With all 3 of those ingredients, they're going to come out and get crushed into thorium, which we're then going to send back into the system with that to create more thorium, and then we should have an overflow excess of thorium, which we should be able to then it'll become radioactive or something. I don't know. It's so complicated. Right. Anyway, I've got to build all that inside of here, and yeah, Cobblestone Generator again. I'm going to need a lot of it. Although I don't know how long nuclear fuel lasts. Do I actually need that much thorium for this nuclear fuel? Surely nuclear fuel lasts a while. So I'm wondering if we could do this small scale. However, the only way I'm going to know is if I go into Creative World and figure this all out. So here I am in my test world, standing in front of a whole range of nuclear generators. Each one of these consists of a funnel with some nuclear fuel in front of it, which is locked with this redstone link so it doesn't go in yet, a reactor fuel inserter, a reactor rod, a heat vent, and then a whole bunch of heat pipe with some Stirling engines on it just to take the heat away so these things don't explode while we're testing them. Each one of these has 1 more reactor rod than the last one, going all the way up to 6, because 6 reactor rods are needed to make a full-size steam power thing work from a nuclear reactor. And yes, in order for these to be safe, they should be covered in reactor glass, but because I'm in creative mode, I'm not going to be suffering from radiation. It should be absolutely fine, so we're going to run a test. All I've got to do is flick this lever. That will unlock all of the funnels. The 1 piece of fuel will go in, and we'll be able to time how long they last inside of each one of these reactors. And I'll assume that the one with 1 reactor rod will last a significantly longer time than the one with 6. At this point, I've absolutely no idea. There's only one way to find out, so I'm going to flick this lever at the same time as starting my stopwatch. So 3, 2, 1, go. That should allow all of the nuclear fuel to go in. It has. Each one of these is now nice and bright, and it should be generating heat. And that means these heat vents should be taking away that heat, going into the heat pipe, and that should be powering our Stirling engines. Although I'm going to need some engineer's goggles to see that properly, but there we go. You can see this thing is generating a whole bunch of heat. We're getting 50k from that out of 10k, so it's not going to explode just yet, but that number is going up, which is slightly concerning. And that one's already at 10, and that one's, oh geez, he's going to blow up. Okay, I need more heat pipes. And I need a whole bunch more Stirling engines on these. But this shouldn't affect how long the fuel lasts, I would imagine. Possibly, maybe. So I'm just basically going to stand here, keep my eye on all of them, and see how we get on. Okay, the results are in as expected. Each time you double up the number of rods, the time halves, which makes sense. What didn't make much sense to me, though, was that this one lasted for a full 24 minutes, meaning the one that was 6 long, which is the one we're more likely to use, lasted a whopping 4 minutes. And that doesn't sound like much, but that's really good. The reason that's really good is that I've been playing with some Thorium Refinery processes. This one is running off a single cobblestone generator, which is then getting smelted into stone, crushed into gravel and sand and clay, pressed into clay blocks, and then mixed at the end here. And that produces more than one radioactive thorium every 4 minutes, which means just a single piece of cobblestone would be enough to power our 6 long reactor core. However, I wasn't happy with that process. The layout's all higgledy-piggledy, it takes up way too much room, so I had another go at doing it, which is this one, which actually produces 1 radioactive thorium every minute. And this is running off a 3-wide cobblestone generator. But I wasn't finished there either. I decided to schematic our new building into this world and have a go at actually laying out the factory inside to see if I could make it all fit. And this is the one that we're going to be going with. And yes, it might seem jam-packed and complicated and full of all sorts of crazy things, but don't worry, I'm not going to schematic cannon it back into our world. I'm just going to figure out what materials I need and build it step by step with you guys. But yeah, this produces a ridiculous amount, way more than we're going to need, which means we'll never run out of fuel, which means our power station will run forever. So back on my real world, it's time to pop down a schematic cannon, click somewhere, doesn't really matter where, with the schematic, stick it in the cannon and put in the clipboard and find out exactly what materials we're going to need. And there's a ridiculous amount we're going to need, 7 pages worth. So I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of resource gathering before we can carry on.
A few moments later.
So now all of the resources have been gathered, it's time to start building this thing out. And we're going to start with the basics, which is basically just putting all of our power and storage lines in place, which means taking out a whole bunch of these blocks at this level here. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the other side as well. I'm also going to be moving this door because that's going to be in the way. Instead, we're going to have the door at this point here. And that means I need to move my little clipboard. We'll stick that over there for now. That's just my material list if you're interested. And now I can smash that one to bits and we can just lay a whole bunch of chain drive all the way along here like this until we get to this point at the end where I'm going to flip it round so it's facing upwards like that. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on this side as well. So let's just pop a couple of those in so I can get that one facing the right way around there and then bring those all the way along the wall, all the way until the very, very end. And in my test world, this is where my power came in, but on this world, my power's coming in over here. And I'd really like it coming in there so that I can switch that round and bring it in from underneath. So let's just do a little bit of jiggery pokery down here. So let's just put a little bit of shaft there for now coming down. At this point here, we're going to have a vertical gearbox, and that's going to go onto the cog of our speed controller. Then we can pop the speed controller there, put a gearbox there, and we can just stick that on full speed. It doesn't really matter which way round this is going right now. We'll worry about that later on. But what I do need is to put a clutch in here. So I'm just going to pop a clutch there, stick a lever on it, and then I can turn all of the power off to this. But obviously these are not linked together. So let's get those linked now. I'm going to bring some shaft up to that point there. I'm going to get some more chain drive and I'm just going to run that all the way across this wall like this, all the way underneath the window to there, and then just pop a little bit of shaft down there. And now when I flick this lever, everything should be powered. It is. Excellent. Now I'm going to go around and smash all of the bottom ones of these pillars. And this is where we're going to be using our spruce storage trim to connect all of my storage together so that we can lay this thing out without having loads of belt spaghetti going everywhere. I'm going to bring it all the way down there as well and all the way down this side. And now we've got everything connected by storage trim. And at this point here, where this lantern is where we're going to be having our 15 storage containers. So let's put the controller down. We're just going to build around this so it's nice and neat. And I think we actually only need 14 because in my test world I had a blank one, which is why I've moved the controller up from where it was, which was there, to there. So that's all of our storage in. Now in my test world I also made this look a little bit nicer with some andesite trim just to tidy up the edges around it so it looked like a nice finished off wall. I say andesite trim, this is clearly andesite casing, but there we go, that looks a little bit better now. And now I can pop my lantern back at the top up there and keep everything nice and bright. So that's the main parts in. So first things first, we're going to start off with a Cobblestone Generator, which is going to be going here. And the reason I want it at this end here is because the entire process, even though they're all separate machines, goes basically from this little garage door bit here as if the cobblestone was being ferried in. The process goes all the way around down to here and then all the way back down to here, with our finished product being at this end here where we've got this garage door, which is effectively where it can get collected from. That's my little theory. That's how it all works. So let's build a Cobblestone Generator. For a Cobblestone Generator, of course, we're going to need a bunch of lava, which is why I'm heading down to my lava farm, which is nice and full considering it's actually powering this entire mining town that I'm underneath of, and round here I did have a little system to get it all out, but I guess I must have removed that, which means I'm just going to steal it from these cauldrons. It doesn't need to be in there, that's absolutely fine, and we just need 9 of them, and now, of course, I've got 19. So the way we're going to do this stacked Cobblestone Generator is relatively simple. There are easier, more compact ways of doing it, but I quite like the industrial look of it once it's finished. And we have 3 drills there, and then a little bit further up we basically have another row of those with another 3 drills on there, and then a little bit higher up than that we have another 3 of those and another 3 drills on there, giving us 9 Cobblestone Generators in total. The next thing I'm going to do is place some temporary blocks in front of all of these drills where the stone is actually going to be generated. And then off each one of those, I'm going to have another 3 of those coming out the back. I'm going to take these temporary blocks out, and then I'm going to put basically copycat stairs there, which is going to contain the water. Behind those stairs, we are going to have some actual blocks, and getting to the top is pretty difficult for this one, so we're going to have to do a bit of smashy in a minute. But we're also going to have some blocks just there at the front, above each of the sets of drills, to stop the lava from pouring out. Now we can get rid of these temporary blocks in the middle. Then underneath each one of these, we're going to be picking up the items with hoppers. So we're going to need to put some more temporary blocks in underneath each one of these, making this a whole full wall. And then underneath that, we can basically have hoppers pointing into that wall and coming out underneath the drills. And then we can get rid of those temporary blocks there. We can get rid of the ones behind the stairs. In fact, I think we can pretty much get rid of all of these temporary blocks that are up here. Although we are going to need some more temporary blocks in front of these drills. But for that, I'm going to use stone because I can leave it there and it won't mess with our system. And the reason we need these temporary blocks is because we're going to be putting copycat boards on the sides of each of these, again, to stop the water and the lava from pouring out. And I'm going to texture each one of these with the andesite casing, as well as putting more blocks on top of those. But before I do that, I actually need to get the water in there. So let's go and make ourselves an infinite water source, just like that. And then I can grab 9 buckets with the water. And all we're going to do is just waterlog each one of the stairs. Once we've got the water in, we can put the lava in, which is going to be going in front of those. Don't worry about fire because I've got fire spread turned off, because why would you play with fire spread on? And as much as the one at the top is self-contained, I'm actually going to need some more temporary blocks on these ones so that I can put some more panels on. I can also fill the backs of these with some more of this andesite casing just here. And then we can put some of these panels on there and there, and there and there, and then there and there. Now I can take out those temporary andesite casings there and fill that full of lava. And yes, I know I don't need a full lava source for each one. I could just put one lava source in the middle, but it looks nicer with it all full. And there we go. That's all of the water and lava in for each one of these things. Next, I'm going to dig a line in the floor in front of this bit that I've already dropped down there. I'm going to run a whole bunch of this storage trim up to in front of the hoppers there, put one there, one there, and one there, and on top of these I'm going to put some interfaces. Then on top of those I'm basically just going to have these chutes coming up past these hoppers all the way to the top, and that's going to make sure that the hoppers don't back up when the cobblestone generator kicks in, and all of the items can end up in our storage system. So let's go and designate one of these boxes cobblestone, and over at this point here I need a little bit more chain drive, and smash a few more of these. So let's just put in some chain drive there and then bring one down that way and then put a bit more in there and bring one. Wow, I've done those both wrong. There we go. And then another one just there facing down as well. And then we can link those together with a little bit of shaft, and that's all of those three connected. So now if I turn this on, our cobblestone generators should kick in. We should start, well, generating stone actually. These are stone generators, but they'll get broken down into cobblestone. And all of those should be going through into the system, generating us around about 9 every second or second and a half, which is plenty. But we don't want that on making all of this noise right now, so let's turn it off and start working on the next part of this, which is going to be a burner and a washer. Burner? Well, like the blaster thingy, the smelter. Sure, jeez. So for the blasters, we're actually going to be taking up 2 of these little alcoves, starting in the middle with a gearbox on there, which we're going to convert to a vertical gearbox, and then underneath that, we're going to have some chain drive poking upwards, and then just running down the side, 3 out this way. In fact, it's not, it's 2 out that way. We're going to have 2 fans there, and then we're going to have 2 fans there, and then this is where we need to make sure our power's facing in the right direction, because both of those need to be blowing, although I guess it actually doesn't matter when you've got them set up this way, whether they're blowing or pushing, so I think that's absolutely fine. We then need another vertical gearbox at that point there, and another vertical gearbox at this point just here. We're then going to place some more chain drive across the top, and that way we can stick 2 more fans on each of these to make sure we got 4 fans blowing on both the washer and the blaster. At the back here, I'm going to put a storage interface, and I'm going to put another one there, and then we're going to dig out the floor again in front of each of these, and we're going to come out to basically the middle but 1 block back. I'm then going to fill that channel with this spruce storage trim, bringing it up 1 block at the end on both of those, and I'm going to stick another storage interface on the front of each one of those. Then we just need a belt joining those together, and we can make that belt look a little bit fancier with some of this casing just to tie it all together and make it look nice. And then we need a brass funnel that end, a brass funnel that end, and the same thing on this side as well. This side is going to be the blaster, so we're going to have stone on there, and we only want 1 coming out at once, which means we then need a filter for normal stone at that side, so the cobblestone will only go through into there once it's fully been turned into stone. We then can stick that out like that to make it more accessible, but we're not going to be doing those ones because we won't be able to get above it from there. We need access from the side. I'm going to grab some copycat panels and put them in front of this fan here like that, and I'm going to put glass in them to make them solid, and then I can grab 2 more buckets of lava and just put those in front of those fans, and that's pretty much done other than powering the belt. On this side, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing, but this side's going to be having sand coming out at 16 at a time, and it's going to have clay going in, which we now pop on the top because I've extended it. And again, we just need some copycat panels in front of there. We'll break that one, put glass in those, and then I just need 2 more buckets of water, which I can put in front of those fans there like that. So that's that one pretty much done. But both of these actually need speed controlling to make sure they don't go too fast. For the speed controller, all I'm going to do is come off the wall just there, bring that down a block, put the cogwheel on there, put the speed controller underneath it. I'm going to set that to 12. And we want to make sure that's going the right way, which we don't know yet until we plugged it in. Put a shaft there and put a shaft there to join that to that one. And I could just run that shaft all the way along to this one to do this one, but in order to give us the maximum flexibility to make sure that we're matching our speeds together, we're going to have exactly the same thing on this one. Join that together and put that on 12. Now, the reason the speed control matters on this is because for each thorium we want to produce, we need 1 block of stone and 1 block of clay. Each block of clay costs 4 clay balls, and whilst you do get a 5% chance of getting the clay balls when we're going to be crushing the gravel, we're going to ignore these ones, and instead we're just going to concentrate on the clay we get from washing sand. And for that, there's a 25% chance again. So for every stone we generate, we actually need to wash 16 sand in order to get 16 clay balls on average, in order to then make the 4 clay blocks in order to make the thorium, so that we're not just making way more stone than we need, or we're not making way more clay than we need. So having this fine speed control on each of these just means that we can make sure that we're not generating too much of one thing or too much of the other. So now those are in place, let's turn the power back on and make sure they're actually facing in the right direction. This one is going in the right direction, and so is that one as well. And now we've actually got stone coming into this. Let's just actually move that into a different drawer. But of course, we're not getting any sand or gravel coming through yet because we need to do the crushing system, which is what we're going to do next. But if you look at this underneath here, you can just about see that that cobblestone turns into stone perfectly before it goes into that tunnel, meaning that our speed of 12 is just the right speed for that to get going through. But let's turn it all off And let's build a big old crushing system. So the next thing we need to do is crush cobblestone down into gravel and then crush that down again into sand in order to get our clay. And the easiest way to do that is with a stacked crushing system, which is similar to what I made in my last series. We're going to start by putting our storage interface there and another one there, and again doing the same thing, just digging out the floor all the way until this point here, putting some more of this storage trim in there to connect it all together, and popping one there and sticking another storage interface there. Then we're going to have some belt coming along here, just like that. And then on this one, we're actually going to have another bit of trim and another storage interface with some more belts coming all the way along here, just like that. On each of these belts, we're going to stick a shaft in the middle there. And on each of those, we need a vertical gearbox, just like that. And the same thing on this side, just like that. And then we can join those together with a little bit of shaft like that. Next, we're going to grab a horizontal gearbox, and I think it goes on this side in order to make sure that that belt goes in the right direction, and that should in turn power everything else to make sure it goes right. But let's go and find out by turning this thing on. What we need to make sure is both of those are going in opposite directions, which they are. So we're going to have the cobblestone coming out of there, going into there as gravel, the gravel coming out of there, going into there as sand. Easy. So we need a brass funnel on there because that's an output, and a brass funnel on there because that's an output. But because we're not worried about what's going in at the other end, we can just put on andesite funnels, and then we can stick our cobblestone on there. I'm going to set that to exactly 16 pieces at a time coming out of there, and then we can put our gravel on there. And speaking of gravel, that means we need a slot for gravel now. And now we can throw on our crushing wheels, which means getting rid of those there, popping one on there and there, one on there, one on there, and that should be it. We should be good to go with that. So let's flick the power on and see what happens. There's no cobblestone. Oh yes, of course. What I also need to do is get some more of this storage trim and actually just join those two interfaces together so that this one's actually connected to the system. Now we'll get cobblestone coming out of there. That's going to go into there as gravel, and we should see that we're getting sand and clay coming through here, which we are. Excellent. Oh, flint at the moment. We should occasionally get a bit of clay as well. So now that that's all working, we can turn the power off once again, and then we can concentrate on the next section of this, which is going to be turning our clay balls into clay blocks. For the clay processing system, this is probably one of the easiest things to do. Yet again, we're just going to dig a hole in the floor, throw some trim into there, and then just stick that one up at the end with an interface on there, stick another interface there, and just chuck another belt down. And while we're at it, let's just tidy that up, because we're not going to be fiddling with that anymore. We're going to put a brass funnel on there, an andesite funnel on there, a basin on there, and another andesite funnel in front of that. And then if we click on this side with the wrench, although it's not visually there, we will actually have the output of that going onto the belt and going into that funnel. Above that, we're going to put a press, and if we spin that round, it's going to be more accessible to our power coming in. We need a little bit of clay. We're going to make one clay block there. We're going to put that as the filter on the basin, put the other clay on there and set that to 4 at a time so we're not overflowing this thing. And then all we need to do is connect this chain drive here to the side of the belt there, and then we just need to connect this to that. So we'll have a little bit more chain drive just there, a shaft there, and that should be everything connected. Let's go and turn the power on and see if it's going to work. It's going the wrong way, of course it is. In that case, what we're going to do is come around here, throw a gearbox on there, turn that into a vertical one, put another one there, turn that vertical, and make sure it's actually facing the belt, and then put a shaft there, and there we go. Now we are turning our clay balls into clay blocks, which are going into the system, so we're now producing clay blocks, which gives us pretty much all of the ingredients we need to start duplicating our thorium. And just to go back over that idea, we're taking 1 thorium, 1 stone, 1 clay, and some water to turn it into 2 thorium. So we're doubling up our thorium every time we add some stone, clay, and water. And that's exactly what we're going to build next. At this point, it's probably a good idea to throw some thorium into the system so we've actually got some to work with, and yes, you guessed it, we're going to be basically just coming off that wall there. But we're doing things differently this time. This time we're going to have 3 interfaces just there. In front of each of those we're going to have 3 depots. We do actually need to dig a channel underneath just like we did before and fill that full of storage trim so it all connects together. And we're going to bring that all the way over up until this point here, and that gives us one wide gap to walk down the middle of this room, which is in line with the door in the middle of our storage system. We're going to put another depot in front of that one there, and in fact that doesn't want to go there, that actually wants to go up 1 block just there, and that one's one's going to have an andesite funnel facing inwards. That's going to take our finished thorium, put it in there. And that, of course, means that on these ones, we're going to need a little bit of thorium, we're going to need a little bit of stone, and we're going to need a little bit of clay. And when I spin these round, all of that's going to come out, but we actually want to set these to one each at a time just to stop our system from overflowing. So let's spin those round, take them back in, and then spit them out again. And there we go. We've got one of each on each one of those. At this point here, we're actually just going to dig a little channel in the floor. I'm going to get rid of that dirt down there and just put some blocks in there to make it look like it fits. And then we need a little bit more water. So let's just make an infinite water source here. We're going to stick some andesite case in there with a basin on it, and that's automatically going to point towards that depot there. We're going to have a pipe going in the side of that and a pump underneath it facing upwards, ideally, if I can place it correctly. There we go. That's going to pump the water out of there into the basin. We then need a mixer on top of there, a little bit of andesite casing on the top and a little bit more there, and that's because we're going to be using a mechanical arm to pick up from each of those and deposit in there, and we're going to just stick that there. On the side of that, we're going to put a cog. We're going to put a cog there, and we're not going to forget to turn this onto forced round robin. And then we're going to stick a little bit of shaft between those two cogs there, so that pump and those two things together are all powered by the same shaft. And then all we're going to do to power this is just bring these cogs along here like that, stick another gearbox on there, and then just turn that into a vertical one, and that should all be powered. If I turn the power back on, we should start duplicating our thorium. Bearing in mind we started with 64, we should start seeing this number go up. And just to see this actually happening, the arm is picking up each of the ingredients. Because it's on forced round robin, it's never going to overfill this with one ingredient and not the others. It's only going to put the right ones in there. One thorium goes in, two comes out, and as you can see, we're already starting to increase that number. Let's just stick a recipe on there just in case. And there we go. We are now duplicating thorium, all from a cobblestone generator. But we're not finished yet. We need to turn that thorium into nuclear fuel. And we're going to do that by other means. In order to make the thorium radioactive, we need to crush it down, and that gives us a 10% chance of getting radioactive thorium. From that, we can then turn that into nuclear fuel, and that needs pressed iron sheets. Fortunately for us, when we crush down the thorium, it actually gives us a 70% chance of getting iron nuggets, which on average conveniently works out to just enough iron to make the iron sheets to make the nuclear fuel. So all we're going to need to do first of all is do exactly the same thing we've got going on over here with our crushing setup, although it's only just one layer in order to crush the thorium. But we've got to be careful. We can't duplicate our thorium if we don't have any to duplicate. So if we crush all of our thorium, it's all going to be gone, and then we're not going to be able to duplicate any more of it. So we need to make sure this system doesn't eat all of the thorium, and that's a relatively simple thing to do. We're going to start, as usual, with a belt across the bottom like that. We're going to make that look all fancy like that. We're going to stick one of those there, and then on the side of this belt here, we're going to put another funnel facing downwards. We're going to dig a hole in the floor just here. We're going to put a simple storage interface just there, and we're going to put a little bit of trim there, and we also need to bring that trim up so that it touches the bottom of this trim up here. Then we can fill that little hole in there, stick a chute in there, and then we just need a little bit of thorium. So what we're going to do is have a funnel on here which is letting out 3 thorium at a time, and we're going to send 2 back into the system. So we've always got 2. So this will only let thorium out if we've got at least 3 of them. And every time 3 come out, 2 of them are going to go back into the system, so we've always got 2 available to be duplicated. Then what we can do is shove our shafts in there, put a couple of vertical gearboxes on either side, just like we did on the other side of the room. Put our crushing wheels on top, and then we just need to power this and make sure it's all going in the right direction, which I believe I just need a vertical gearbox on there, another one down there, and a bit of shaft in between, although that might be going backwards. We're about to find out. Let's turn the power on and see. Yep, that's running totally backwards, so that's no good for us at all. Let's get rid of those, and instead we're going to throw a little bit of chain drive just there and just bring that up against that, and now it should all be going the right way. It is. That's starting to get crushed, which is good. You can see we've already got some iron nuggets, so if we put ourselves an andesite funnel on there, now we are making radioactive thorium, which should start coming through into our system in a minute. We're already getting nuggets of XP through, which is nice. Come on, radioactive thorium, where are you? And there we go, we got one. Amazing. So now that we've got our little crushing system in and we're getting our radioactive thorium, we need to turn these iron nuggets into iron sheet. And in order to do that, first of all, they need to become iron ingots. So the next thing we're going to build is pretty much identical to everything else we've done so far. We're going to put all of our storage trim in. We're going to put a belt going across here like this. We're going to stick an andesite funnel on there. We're going to put a basin on there. We're going to put an andesite funnel on there. We're going to spin that basin around. We're going to put a brass funnel at this end just there, and we're going to set that for iron nuggets. Just like that. We want 9 at a time coming out because it takes 9 to make 1 ingot. We're going to set a filter on this basin for iron ingots, and we might as well set up a little space in here for iron ingots and one for iron sheets as well. Then we just need a press on top of that and to power it all. And yes, this little setup is identical to our clay one over here, so powering it should be pretty much the same thing, although I think we're going to have our chain drive down this side to make sure it's all going in the right direction. A little bit of chain drive there, a little bit more there, and then just a shaft there, and that should, hopefully, if I've done everything correctly, start producing us some iron ingots. There we go. Nice. So now all we need to do is turn that into iron sheet and turn that into nuclear fuel. So let's do the iron sheet first, which is going to be even more simple than that. And yes, it means doing this all over again. So let's grab some more of the storage trim, bring it across here, stick it there, put one of those on, fix the hole in the floor that I just made, put another bit of belt in between them. Stick a brass funnel on there and an andesite one on there. Remember to tidy up this belt that I didn't tidy up, and then do this one as well that I've just put down. Grab ourselves some iron ingots so that we can set a filter on this, and we only want 1 at a time coming out of there. Then all we need on here is a press. We're going to power it again with the chain drive there, and then this time we don't need more chain drive coming up to the top because this press is lower down, and I think that's that for that. So let's again turn the power on and see if we're getting iron sheet coming through. Apparently, oh, we don't have any ingots because I took them all out. Let's go put some more ingots in, and we might actually have some to process. But now I missed it. No, there we go. You almost saw one, but it worked. So all we've got to do now is turn our iron sheet and our radioactive thorium into nuclear fuel. How hard could it be? What could possibly go wrong? So the final piece to this puzzle is a relatively simple one, although mildly more complicated than this. But that's about it, and that's really not very complicated. So yet again, we're going to start with our trench with our trim stuff in it. Just like that. We're going to stick another one of those there, another belt coming across the middle, another brass funnel on there, another andesite funnel on there, and this time we're going to need a little bit of radioactive thorium, and we're going to need a little bit of iron sheet to set some filters. We also need on this one 2 presses and a deployer, so we're going to stick 1 press at the end there, and don't worry, that will go through the funnel. We're going to stick a deployer there, and we're going to stick another press there, and if we spin all of those round, we can get them all connected to each other through the bar. We're going to stick our iron sheet on there, we're going to put our thorium on there. Again, we only want 1 at a time coming through there, and then we need to stick a smart chute on top of there with the iron sheet filter on there, a storage interface on top of that, and then we need to link that to our other storage interface. So we're just going to bring that down and across here like that, and that should, there we go, link up to our storage system. Let's just give that a bunch of those to start with. Let's make the belt look a little bit neater, and then all we need is a little bit of chain drive down here to power the belt, and just 1 shaft there to power all of that, and that should be the last little bit of our refinement process complete, which is going to generate us nuclear fuel. But there's only one way to find out. Let's turn it on and see what happens. I've got all of the refined thorium on me, so I'm just going to chuck a bit on there for now, and there we go. We should have nuclear fuel now. Let's do a couple more. Wow, that's fast. So going over here then, let's find out. Yeah, we've got 3 nuclear fuel in our system. Every single one of our storage slots is full, which means we've done everything we need to do. So we're now generating more nuclear fuel than we could possibly know what to do with. But I think it's time that we had a rate test to find out exactly how well this is going to produce this stuff. And while that's going on, I'm just going to go and fill in a few of these gaps and make the whole area look a little bit nicer than it does. Hey you, I'm trying to do a rate test here. What are you doing? Turning up and jeez, get out of it, you smelly pillagers. Now, in order to do a successful rate test, we need arrows in our cheeks and 1 in our eye. No, we need to empty out this system so there isn't loads of stuff clogging it up, so that we can make sure everything's running nice and smoothly. So let's take out all of the cobble, let's take that out, let's take all of that out, let's take out all the flint. Oh, and I need to put a void thing on the flint as well. I also need to put a void thing on the experience, and I should probably put capacity upgrades into the nuclear fuel so that we don't clog up the system. So I guess there's a couple of things I do need to to do before we do a rate test. So let's just chuck our void upgrade on there and another one on there, and then we'll just stick 4 capacity upgrades into there, which means that this will then be able to hold 32,000 nuclear fuel. I think that'll be plenty. So now that everything is empty, what I need to do is start my timer at the same time as flicking this switch. In 3, 2, 1, go. Now we just need to see how many we get over whatever period of time I need this running for, and then do the maths.
1 eternity later.
Well, it's been just about 30 minutes. I have 5 seconds left, so here we go. We're going to be flicking off the switch and finding out exactly what we got in 30 minutes, and we managed to get a whopping 50 nuclear fuel in 30 minutes. Let's do the maths. Okay, so in 30 minutes we got 50 nuclear fuel, which is 100 an hour, which is 6.7 per minute, which means we can have 6 times 6 nuclear core reactor thingies that we looked at earlier. These things, and this one in particular, because this has 6 reactor rods and requires 1 nuclear fuel every 4 minutes. And this one in particular because if you've got 6 reactor rods, you can generate a maximum power steam engine. So with the rate that we're producing all of that nuclear fuel, we can actually have 6 full-powered steam engines running off nuclear power, which is the equivalent of about 1.8 million stress units, which is going to be more than we need. So yeah, we don't need to use all of the nuclear fuel we're generating, but we are going to have more than one of these things powering more than one of these things. And back on the real world, I'm thinking we're going to have 2 of those big maximum powered steam boilers in each of our steam columns, generated by 4 of the nuclear cores inside of our main building. I think that will be more power than I could ever possibly know what to do with. And you might be thinking from the numbers of things that we generated that my maths isn't exactly right. Well, it is in terms of how much nuclear fuel we're getting, but in terms of the efficiency of this farm, you can see we're generating a whole bunch of stone and clay, and more stone than we are getting clay, which means I could turn my stone production down to even those out, but it doesn't really matter because we're producing more of those than we're using, turning it into thorium, which means actually the bottleneck of the system is our thorium duplicating system. If we were to double this up, we could effectively get even more nuclear fuel out in 1 hour, or 30 minutes, which was the duration of that test, but we really don't need to. We're going to have more than enough, and we should be able to get enough of a backlog that I can put some sort of sensor on here and controller that if we've got more than we need, it'll just shut off this processing plant, which will mean a whole less lag for the server, because these cobblestone generators and all of this sort of stuff all adds up in terms of lag and cost and computing power. So yeah, this wonderful little thorium refinery is doing everything I need and more, meaning that in the next episode we can start actually getting towards producing nuclear power, although that is going to be quite difficult. Because in order to create reactor rods, we're going to need reactor casings, reactor glass, nuclear fuel, gold sheet, and that means we're going to need to energize things and make stuff. We're also going to need overcharged iron and blaze burners, as well as heat pipes, which is terracotta and zinc and copper. So we're going to need a whole bunch of resources before we can even get started working on those things, but I can't wait to do it.